Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing fantastically well. It's Connor here, and we are back with some more Leeds United content. As it says above my head, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're checking out all the latest videos. We've had the debrief, we had the blue, white, and yellow podcast out yesterday, where we discussed the relegation picture. The blue, white, and yellow is available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcast, Spreaker. Make sure you check that out on all your podcast providers as well. We've had the review of the game at the weekend, which has gone down really well, and other bits of content that I'm sure you guys will enjoy, including the Rafinha chat yesterday. So make sure you check out all the content. We're here with another video today, and it is titled My Problem with Victor Orta. Now, I'm sure Victor's an absolutely fantastic guy. I love his passion. I love his enthusiasm. It mirrors mine, really. It's very fan-like, isn't it? And I was absolutely loving his reaction at the Norwich game when he cried. And then I loved his reaction at Wolves when he was ragdolling half of the staff that were up there with him. But listen, I'm here to talk about his comments at a webinar recently about the squad design. Now, this has only come out recently, and it's Victor saying that he believes that the squad policy and the squad design that Marcelo Bielsa left is something that he wants to go forward with. Now, Marcelo Bielsa did an incredible job at Leeds United, but for me, the squad size was his undoing at the club. The complete inexperience, the lack of bench options, the lack of business in January, ultimately and cumulatively, not just Bielsa, but including the board, has killed Leeds United in terms of progressing this year, in my personal opinion. The summer wasn't great. Dan James, I think you guys you already know how much I love Dan James. Junior Firpo is not going to be a signing that works out for me. Klaassen, we will have to just wait and see on that one. But 3 signings, one for the under-23s in the summer, it just wasn't good enough, and Leeds were falling on the sword, and that was the huge problem. That was my worry going into the season. Then we went into pre-season, and it just wasn't clicking at all. And yeah, there were problems from the start with Leeds United, but the squad design, the squad depth was something that was prevalent and poor from the start, when Leeds were just getting struck with not only COVID but injuries as well. So a freak season in terms of injuries. We know that we're still not out of the woods yet, contrary to what a lot of people believe. I do think that we've given ourselves a massive helping hand, but the next 2 games are pivotal in Leeds United's season. But this is all speculative, and this is all presuming we are in the Premier League next season. And I guess you could attribute it as well to us not being in the Premier League this season. Next season, sorry. But the small squad design that Orta'S spoken about is something that I wanted to touch on in this video. So his quotes are, it's a long piece on Leeds Live if you guys want to go check it out. But essentially, the quotes that I wanted to pick out is, our idea is that 18 professionals with 4 under-23s is the way to go forward. He's also spoken about keeping that Marcelo Bielsa legacy. And I understand what he's trying to do there. I understand we've had success off the back of that, but I do think Marcelo Bielsa's legacy is something different. It's not, it's very outcome biased, of course it is, but I don't think Leeds fans will ultimately focus on the small squad design. And I think Orta he needed to learn from that. He really did. And it will throw up a lot of questions to Leeds fans, and they will all turn around and think, well, hold on, if this is from board level as well, if this is from Victor Orta, is Radrizzani thinking the same? Are the 49ers thinking the same? This must be a business plan going forward. Every business has a plan going for into the next 2-3 years. That's what it is, isn't it? Every sort of business, wherever you work, has that structure. So surely everyone's on board with this small squad policy right now, including the manager, which is a real worry for me. It's a huge, huge worry for me. And with Victor Orta coming out and saying that, it's almost like I've said at the start that he's learned from Bielsa. But I think this was the undoing of Bielsa. We look at some of the fixtures that the small squad was almost laughable in. Spurs away, where our only senior players on the bench were Junior Firpo and Tyler Roberts. You look at Everton away, when we got beat 3-0, when we all thought, oh my goodness, is this it? We're getting hammered by a team below us. Our only fit players on the pitch there were Adam Forshaw and Tyler Roberts. And you look at the Arsenal at home game, where it's always going to be difficult, but if you can get a win or a draw in that game, it's going to galvanize the fans. We couldn't even fill the bench. So, I mean, freak accidents like the other day against Wolverhampton Wanderers, where you bring in, like Sir Clarkson on, Cresswell on, Greenwood on. They are freak, but they do seem to happen to Leeds quite often. And it's not like before Bielsa, Victor Orta had this philosophy. I know it was a different owner, it's completely different variables, but under Christiansen and under Heckingbottom, the likes of Pierre-Michel Lasogga coming in and players of the like, it wasn't exactly like Leeds were looking to the youth development. So it is 100% a Marcelo Bielsa blueprint that Victor Orta wants to take forward, which I respect, but I just don't think we'll get on to our aims in a little bit as a club, but I think what he's referenced is the Norwich and Wolves game. He's also spoken about the West Ham game with Lewis Bate being in the starting 11, but Lewis Bate's barely featured all season. So it's all well and good giving debuts out, but consistent games is something that the kids and the kids' agents will look at. Hence why you got the Cody Dramé situation. They need to get consistent minutes. And the positive, I guess, is Jesse Marsch is all about rotation. But is this something that Marsch actually wants? He spoke a little bit at the start of making this, he's spoken before at Leipzig and Salzburg about having a bigger squad so he has more to choose from. Is this something from the top down that is being put on Jesse Marsch? Because it just seems very, very bizarre for Victor to come out and say these sort of things. And board level, I do get sort of sick of hearing, Radrazani coming out on Twitter and saying certain things, Victor Orta coming out in the press and saying stuff like this, because when we're on a high and we're thinking we can just get it over the line this season, we can just get it over, but hopefully the board have learned and we can go into next season. They've made a shocking array of calls this year, and hopefully they've learned. And now he's coming out and saying things like this. But Victor was speaking about the Norwich game in terms of Joe Gelhardt coming on and scoring. As I just said, he mentioned Lewis Bate coming on in an isolated game against West Ham. And the Wolves game, obviously the 23 has been prevalent. But the Wolves game is just, it's a half. It's a crazy half. They did so well. But Christopher Clarkson, for example, is going to be judged on several Premier League games if he is to be judged. You can't just judge him on 35 minutes of football. You really can't. You look at Sam Greenwood, and before that Wolves game, a lot of people were saying, well, is he really good enough? A championship loan would probably benefit him. Lewis Bate, as I've just said, he's barely got any starts so far this season after we picked him from Chelsea offering him a new contract, being a player who they really looked at as Livramento as a top talent. Cresswell, he's not really got that many minutes this year, even when we've had underperforming centre-backs, especially recently with the likes of Diego Llorente. So I understand the play in the youth argument. I completely get that. But I am struggling to see that they'll even be regulars next season, and I understand that he's talking about squad depth, that if they're needed, then they can come on. But I just don't really understand it. I just think to myself, well, why wouldn't you just thicken the squad up in general then? Why is there such a reliance on the youth? And obviously it's because, the club want to make money from these sorts of things. They want to make money from the likes of Lewis Bate if he's able to showcase himself. And that's what Victor's essentially said as well in the article. He said that, it's about making money. It's about getting the value of the players up and all this sort of stuff. But surely the number one aim has to be to stay in the Premier League. And to be honest with you guys, I got hounded last season for saying, and you guys know this, but I've been hounded before by saying 13th is a priority, is where I think Leeds will finish. And that was after a ninth place finish, got called negative, unbelievably. But behind closed doors, me and my old man were saying that it's going to be a tough job this year. It's going to be a 16th, 17th place finish, because of the squad depth. Now, if this is happening again next year, this is going to be a real, real worry for me. It's a real, real worry if we go in with this, because we're living on an unbelievable spirit right now. Jesse's come in, 2 losses, 2 wins. It's not like it's been 4 wins. It's 2 losses, 2 wins, 1 horror show performance against Aston Villa. And I understand there's a high, but that spirit, that man management, I don't think there's been that much tactical diverting away from Bielsa. We're still playing wide football. You look at pretty much all the goals against Wolves, they all came from out wide. Jesse Marsch wants to play a narrow, compact system. So that's going to happen in the new season. So it's going to be a new system for the kids, for the first team to get used to. But this man management thing, the spirit thing, at one point that's going to die down a little bit, and it is going to be solely reliant on the tactics. It's going to be solely reliant on the system that Jesse's implemented, which will be in full effect next season without any Bielsa caveats to it, which it does have at this moment in time. So you've got to have the players to be able to play that system. I'm talking Brendan Harrison. I'm talking Minamino at Liverpool. I'm talking players of that ilk who've played in it before, have experience and are clearly top quality. What worries me about Victor's comments is it sounds like we're just going to be looking towards the youth again, and he's going to prioritize youth development over bringing senior players in. That's a huge worry for me. I don't know what you guys think, but there are several things to touch on. The aims as well. The aims that we heard from our chairman are to be, if we stay up this season, to be fighting for the top 6. How are we going to do that with a threadbare squad again? We're hoping once again that Calvin Phillips isn't going to get injured. If Rafinha's still here, Rafinha not to get injured. Players that we're bringing in who are having to get used to the system, to not get injured, which hasn't happened this year. For example, under Marcelo Bielsa, Junior Firpo, who's come in, who's constantly injured. So there are a lot of variables. And as well, if Rafinha is to go, you're going to have to bring, arguably 2 players in to fill that attacking void. I think we need more players in anyway to fill that attacking void. But, I'm hoping for another left back this year, potentially 2 left backs. I'm hoping for, that there is still an argument that you'd look at bringing a goalkeeper in as well, an experienced goalkeeper. People can't just get performance bias and look at the class and performance in the Wolves game. It's a general picture. Is he good enough at this moment in time? If Meslier is out of the picture for a long time, can Klaassen come in and have a sustained period in the Premier League? I know he had a good performance against Man United under 23s. He had a good 30 minutes against Wolves, but they were also saves that I'd expect him to make, So it's not being negative at all, guys. It's just looking at it realistically, how many players the Leeds need next season. Another central midfielder is something we've all been speaking about. So I guess the advantages are that the youngsters will be able to play the Marsh way. They're going to have had a longer time with the American to be able to learn his ways. You look at Cresswell, Joffe, Bate, etc. They're going to have time to be able to mold themselves into this sort of project, which is going to be an advantage. Marsh knows the players as well. He's able to cultivate a relationship with the players, and Leeds don't have to spend that much money. But is that right in the Premier League? I know we've spent a lot of money. I understand we've spent a lot of money, but I would be in favour of, even if we got rid of Rafinha, to bring a couple of bodies in, and those couple of bodies who come in to be a lower value than what Rafinha was sold for, but just to get bodies in of quality. Now, the disadvantages are it's a risk again. It's a huge risk going into next season. And we see a lot of interim managers coming in and giving that little bit of a bounce. At the start, I didn't know if there was going to be a bounce. We spoke about it on the debrief and we said, is there really a bounce under Jesse Marsh? Well, his XG suggests so. The XG again suggests so as well. There's a team unity, a team spirit there. But that can only last so long. And when you're going into next season with a completely different system, because as I've said, this is very Bielsa-y, this system. And Marsh has said he's not going to change a lot. He's going to just put his little 2 cents in here and there, put his arm around the players, put some tactical nuances in there, of course, but, he's not going to change that much. Next season, there will be a whole host of change. So how will the players adapt to it? And surely there needs to be a high level of quality embedded in this side. I still look at his Leipzig team. It's better than this Leeds United side, obviously. I look at that Salzburg team and I look at the names in that Salzburg team, and I do think it's better than this Leeds United side in terms of the whole plethora of the squad, the quality, the caliber of the squad. Some of you guys may disagree. But yeah, so I just think that Jesse might be, I mean, you'd hope that he'd be wanting a thicker squad in this. And I've mentioned Minamino and Aronson. But I think Orta and the club have to learn from those mistakes. They've made so many mistakes this season, and that is one of them. The small squad design. A lot of people turn around and say the small squad design cost Marcelo Bielsa his job. I think the man marking was a huge problem. But then you've got the quality of player in that man marking system. I do think that man marking system was figured out, to be quite honest with you. And I think Leeds would have been in big trouble. That's my personal opinion. And we still might be in big trouble. But you've got to mitigate against that. And it seems like Orta wants to do the same thing again in the summer. So for me, this just says to me that Leeds are depending on less injuries. And I don't know if it's going to be, we were all talking about that overhaul. But when you look at it realistically, there's only Liam McCarron out of contract this summer. All the players are contracted up. Some players that fans might want to leave, you doubt they're going to leave, really, in my opinion. And how many signings are Leeds going to make if Victor Orta'S wanting to keep this Bielsa legacy that is the small squad? A lot of risks. Disappointing to hear for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm really, really interested to hear this one from you guys. Do you agree? Do you disagree? As I said, try to take the results out of it right now. How are you feeling about Leeds right now? Because I think a long-term view is necessary. It's something that I do all the time. But with this conversation, when we're talking about policy, structure, framework, recruitment, we have got to look long-term. And I'm a little bit worried about these comments. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, guys. Please like, comment below, as I keep saying, and make sure you subscribe to the channel.